All right, everybody. It is your pal. Well, not so much your pal, but your teacher, Patrick Vogelpool, back once again with this sweet slideshow on the elements of fiction that I think you're going to really like. Check that out. I'm even enlarging it for you. And I'll walk you through a lot of this stuff, and some stuff I'll have you read. We'll take it from there. Okay. So this is the stuff that is in almost all short stories, right? You have a plot, conflict, protagonist, an antagonist, the concept of showing and telling, an epiphany, well-rounded characters or flat characters, symbols, similes, metaphors, themes, and you have also the types of narrative style. If you've been to high school and you attended and you were sober, you probably heard about these things. Okay? So I'm not going to go through everyone, but I'll go through a couple. So the plot is nothing more than the events of the story. You almost want to say the plot are, but subject and verb agreement would be off. But that's actually more accurate. When we get to writing summaries next week of stories, most reveal your understanding of plot. That's it. You know the events. And not even all of the events, just the major ones. You have the beginning, with the author introduces the story's world. We probably learn who the protagonist is, as well as his or her motive. We have the middle of the story, in which the protagonist seeks something, but antagonists interfere. And we have the end. The character does or does not achieve her or his goal. In the middle of the story, we have what's called dramatic tension. That is what happens when the protagonist is going after her, his motive, and the antagonist or antagonists get in the way. So it makes the story more dramatic, more tense. The protagonist have to work around the antagonist. Our hero, the person we root for, has to work around the antagonist or the antagonistic elements. And that moves the story forward. It gives the story a sense of motion. You're not just waiting in a scene. Okay? And then there's an epiphany. Typically the protagonist, in some way or form, has a sudden life-changing realization. It is not always directly stated. Sometimes it is implied. And this affects her motives or actions. Maybe she or he then changes course. So if in a story a young man is pursuing one girl romantically, maybe about halfway through the story or towards the end of the story, he realizes he's in love with his next door neighbor, and he goes after her. And it's Taylor Swift. Protagonist. Okay. This is the character for whom we root. Okay? And it's almost always just more than just one character. Almost always just one character. Weird punctuation here, Patrick. Three-dimensional, so they have a clear motive, a reason for acting, in other words. And they have strengths and weaknesses. They're not perfect. They are incredibly human. The more human, the better. Doesn't have to be a goody-goody. Doesn't have to be a knight in shining armor. Doesn't have to be that sort of perfect, ideal person. In fact, they're almost always less interesting when they are. Antagonist. The antagonist can be one person, or even two or more people. It can be events or part of the setting. Whatever they take, whatever they are, the protagonist has to work against them. Take. I wrote that when I was tired and had a baby on me. Whatever they are, the protagonist has to work against them. When in the form of the person, they can be well-rounded. Certainly, I think the best antagonists, the most interesting ones are. I think if you look at the best villains in TV and in film and in books and in plays, the bad person, the antagonist, is really still well developed. They have a motive, they have strengths and weaknesses, right? So think of Game of Thrones, or The Sopranos, The Wire, or Boardwalk Empire. These bad guys, supposedly, can be very complicated. Okay. Showing and telling. This is a very good concept to wrap your head around. Sometimes there's information presented in the story directly. So we know the main character's tie is blue because the author told us. We know another character is in love with his best friend's wife because the narrator told us. So that information is told to us. Other information is implied. It is shown. That is the concept behind showing. Okay, the author wants you to have to put that piece together. So that's what it means to be showing. When you're showing, right there, the author wants you to know something about a character or an event, but does not state what he wants you to know. The information is implied. You have to connect the dots, or the author tells you. Okay. Very, very hard decision for writers. The writer spends too much time showing the reader stuff, and you don't get it when you could just be told something. You might feel like your time's been wasted. Okay. Epiphany, sudden life-changing realization. Protagonist typically has it. Often occurs in the last third of the story, but can happen sooner. Can change the character's course of action. Is sometimes shown, sometimes it's told. So be on the lookout for both. If it's too corny, you will lose the audience. So if the lesson is too big or too pure, if it's too much of a truism, you could lose the audience. Well-rounded characters, often called three-dimensional characters. And that means you have a character that is more than a type. And it can be a protagonist, an antagonist, right? It is typically a major character, a character that you need in the story. Without it, they don't work. They have a clear motive. They clearly want something. They have clear strengths of character. They have clear weaknesses. And when you read about them, they seem like a real person. Flat characters can be a stereotype. They lack a motive or a strength or an opportunity. They can be part of a scene, right? They can be a device in a way where through them the character's allowed to commit an action, and that's all they're good for. You can look through symbols and all that stuff. Similes, I know you get that. Metaphor, you get it. Themes, okay. So remember when you were in high school and a teacher asked you what a story's quote-unquote deeper meaning was? That's just another way for her to have asked for the story's themes, all right, or theme. It's still part of literature courses. We still want to see if we can have you construct meaning. So you kind of try to explain what the story's about or what the themes are, right? By studying different parts of the story. So how do characters reveal theme? How does setting reveal theme? How is the narrator revealing theme? How are symbols or similes and metaphors establishing a theme? So there's different ways to find it. Okay, these are good to find and discuss when writing, say, a book review. So if you were to go write for the New York Times, you would certainly want to know the themes of a book that you're reviewing for that newspaper. It's often really hard to prove what the theme is. You got to cobble the evidence together. Authors typically show themes. They really tell us what the meaning is, right? So how do we find them? You look at all the other parts. You look to plot. You look at the characters. You look at the setting. What bigger idea do these things add up to? And it can be more than one. As long as your evidence makes sense, you just discovered a theme. So if you can support it with evidence from the text, you are good, which is really the case for anything in reading and then writing critically about fiction. As long as you have evidence in the text that supports your claim, you're good. You're going to write probably a paper that at the very least passes. So think about that. Narration. This is the hot topic right now among writers, editors, scholars, critics. And it comes back in every few years where people try to figure out what the best type of narration is. So we have first person, where you say things like, I saw. It's told from the I perspective. Second is when you tell it from someone else's point of view, the you, right? Someone directly across from you. You can think of it that way. Third person is someone else. Right? You have reliable narrators. You can believe all or most of the info that the narrator offers. And you have unreliable narrators. You can't believe much of what information the narrator offers. Okay, and you have to then put together what the story's really about or what it means. The trend lately is that a lot of fiction writers are going to back to a reliable third person. Okay, so that's it. And I'll send you more work later. And take care. I hope you're all doing well. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.